I'd like to call the Foster Town Council meeting for July 26th to order. Please stand, pledge the flag, which is here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At least we can't steal that.
We have public comment. Mr. Savazia.
Yeah. It's come to my attention that Mr. Rogers continues to talk about the planning board on his webpage, all right? We are an independent body that makes recommendations.
Public comment. Let's not.
I get to comment on my public officials, okay? You have an attorney here. You can
Yes,
ask.
if the case out of hand, would you please let me know?
Yes. We are a recommending body which the council decides if what we recommend is good or not. So I'd like to talk about a plan of turning a fire truck into a highway truck. No cost-benefit analysis was taken. No cost center analysis of the highway department was included. You lost 3 years of depreciation, that truck sitting in the rain, the snow, the sun, and you lost the opportunity cost of not having the money in your hands. So if Mr. Roger wants to comment about the 5 people on the planning board, he should pay attention to the things he recommends and the rest of you follow, okay? He has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to finance, all right? And I'm not giving the Democrats a pass on this. You guys follow his recommendations, and he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about on finance. So somebody figure out, there's no treasurer here, somebody figure out how much money you've lost with Gary going around with a fire truck, using the fire truck to blow out culverts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes, Dave Terrell, 101 East Canton Road. Can I reserve that for after the
Yes,
vote on the field?
Yep. during the discussion portion.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, we have on the agenda the Henry Phillips Recreation Field bid. In your packet, you have the bids that were opened,
I'll be recusing myself from this.
and we have an email from the trust.
So if I may, can I
Yes.
start? So 2 things. One, I requested the meeting based upon the Interlocal Trust, which is the insurance carrier for the town. I asked it to be tonight. I have a later commitment. I am in my town, the MC of our summer concert series, and I have to be there as much as I can. I do miss for the regular meetings, but I asked if we could have it a little bit earlier tonight so I can leave. What concerned me about this letter is that when you have your insurance company telling you that basically the field was designed wrong and that the baseballs are going to be hit into the roadway, that to me was a tip-off that you need to come back, rebid. I made the recommendation that you have to add in netting to the, as part of the bid, and so someone has to go out there and I presume measure how much netting you're going to need and how high it has to be. But the letter is pretty straightforward, and one thing I didn't want to see out of the utmost caution, I don't care if you own a home, you own a business, when your insurance company comes out and says, well, we recommend you do this, if you don't do it, you're going to get yourself jammed up because either they're going to drop you or they're not going to cover that particular item or project or whatever the case may be. So I felt out of the utmost caution it was best to rebid it based upon the trust probably should have come out at the beginning of the project and didn't, but they're out here now, and this is what they're telling you. So they're worried about baseballs hitting cars, baseballs hitting motorcycle guys or girls, and if they run off the road and hit something, there's going to be liability on the town because they're putting you on notice now that we need to correct the issue. So that's basically why I had asked the president of the council to put this on a special agenda and have to rebid it. That's my advice to the council.
And you have-
I make a motion to send it out and be rebid.
Second.
Okay, we can discuss it.
Discussion. I don't know, when's the council? Anyone on the council?
After reading this,
You're still reading that?
no, I read it today.
Okay.
I agree with Mark. I think it should be rebid to include netting, or if something has to be done, because otherwise I think we will be in financial ruin if something happens.
I agree, and after reading it. Anyone else on the council have something?
So, Bob, what they're worried about is at the driveway portion of the field.
Well, home base, if you look at the layout of the field, the outfield is up against 94.
Right.
So, not so much a little leaguer, but if other people use that field, you know, those balls can easily go into 94. You know,
Even with the,
You could get a little leader too, that might.
yeah, a big little, you know, there's nothing saying that a ball won't travel into that, the road.
1 minute.
Yeah, no problem.
Mrs. Ryder had her hand first.
I'm just, number one, I'm curious why this came up now, why suddenly the trust is interested. Also, this has been going on for what, 4 or 5 years? There is a file drawer full of reports and information on this rec field. I find it incredible that this never came up before. And I know we've had a succession of planners, perhaps your planner should go through and look at it. I mean, this just blows my mind. I'm also curious why one of the council members cannot discuss the ball field. Perhaps there is a monetary
Well, let me
problem.
address your concern about why all of a sudden the trust. My concern is, why wasn't the trust informed in the beginning? Why weren't they notified? I would think that putting something of this in town, you would want to check with our insurance company as to what's covered and what's not. That would be my concern. I think it's kind of late that we finally did look at it, and I'm glad that we did, because I would hate to have something happen and then the town owe all this money. As far as Mr. Rogers recusing himself, that's his business.
So there's probably money involved. But
Mrs. Ryder, there's no reason why you have to go that way. Thank you.
however, I am not convinced this did not come up before.
I've
I
never
mean,
heard about the trust.
I've never-
Have you been through the file drawer on information? I
Yes.
mean, we're talking a file drawer full of stuff. You've been through every piece of
Yeah.
it.
You know what didn't call? The fact that they were blowing a hole in the woods and nobody even knew they were even starting.
I think we all know who is for this project and who is against. I don't think that needs to come up. The problem is, this needs to come,
Let's not talk about the original.
this needs to be done by a certain period,
Yes,
or the town loses a ton of money.
I agree, and nobody's putting a stop to it.
Right.
Nobody's putting a stop to it, but we do want to do it right.
If I may, I believe if the trust had looked at it, you wouldn't be getting this letter, they would have been sending you out the old letter.
Right.
Their insurance companies, one thing they are, they're involved in risk.
Well, maybe you need a new insurance company. This is 5 years.
This is the.
5 years.
This is, you should argue with the town council for 5 years.
Well, I'll take onus because I didn't think of contacting them until I read this and why they were contacted. I mean, I should have known. I should have thought of it. I didn't think of it, Lynn. I read this. I was glad that it was here. I think we can get this reconfigured quickly and still get it within a couple of weeks. I think these people will just resubmit bids for that. I'm hoping
I don't
that's
think
what's
we
gonna
need to
happen.
reconfigure, because I think that's going to be
I
too
don't
much.
mean I mean
But adding and netting the
the
offenses, right,
to include that.
Needs to be in the bid.
I think it needs to be in the bid. Mr.
So I
Turner,
would
you
take
had-
onus.
I don't know if you
never
have your
heard.
hand up yet. or-
I didn't have my hand up, no, I just signed the list, but I can wait.
Okay. Somebody else. Mr. Sabazio, you got your hand up.
I have a master's degree in recreation. One of those things is designing fields. When I was on the recreation committee with Dave, Dave had a really good idea about a little softball field. But let me say to you about the first time I looked at the plan, there's not enough space for the whole plant, everything, okay? So let me say this to you. The high school just built 8 brand-new tennis courts with lights that are available for town residents. There's 2 basketball courts on hard surface at the Payne School that could be revised, all right, or revamped. Removing this, in fact, you can't play baseball there, get over it. You just can't play, it's not big enough, so Dave's gonna speak to something else, I think. But I honestly think at this point, finish the field, forget about the baseball field, forget about the tennis court, forget about the basketball courts. And one time before I mentioned well water, irrigation. And if you have a soccer field that's going to be used all the time, I don't know if that's the case, you can rotate that field over 4 spaces and not eat that whole space up. So I do think at this point, Dave's on the recreation committee, he's going to speak to, I guess, a girls softball field, but I think the rest of it should be dropped and having a rotating soccer field or 2 or 3 small soccer fields for little kids, and you can save the money on the netting, save the money on the tennis, and save the money on the basketball courts. That's up to you. You're in charge, as I always say.
This is a question, and I want to make sure I understand. If we don't go along with what was written for the bond that we got, if it's not done that way, we lose it, or we
Right.
pay it back.
I recall when.
So it's too
Right.
late to change those
Right.
things and use this money, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
When we went to the
We
DEI
tried.
for the grant, we asked if we could flip it.
Okay,
If
let
we
me
wanted to
ask
flip
this
it, we
then.
had to
I
write it over
understand. Let me ask this. Is the basketball court and the tennis court on grass?
there.
Look
No,
at the plan. No? Oh, well, get ready to eat the money.
thank you.
What are you gonna do?
Mr. Sheldon.
I'm not sure how this question's gonna go, but we hired an architect to give us that plan,
Yes.
who was experienced in playgrounds. And he's the one that aimed the balls for the Route 94. Is it too late now, because it was so long ago, to call up the architect and say, fix it?
It's already been presented to
To
the
DEM.
DEM. It's in the plan.
Because they did give us an
We
extension.
changed the plan, and we gotta go back and do the grant over.
Write the grant over again, because that was one of the things that we did look into, is whether we could flip it, or whether we could get a year or so to get the settlement. And they gave us the time to get the settlement.
The plan was made in 2008.
10. This is what, I thought 2010 was what we talked about at the
They
meeting.
voted on it in 2008.
No.
No, it was
No.
after that.
No?
It was
That's
after
not
that. It was
Yeah, it was
2000.
after that.
Right,
Yeah,
it was
because I was on it.
This
Right,
is
Cheryl
on the
was
last
on.
source.
Last
Well,
site.
so does this planner have any liability here?
The architect, whoever designed this.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are supposed to be experienced in doing playground, I mean, ball fields and stuff, right?
You had 25 years in the
I
field.
don't believe there was a lot of options in the size and the square footage that was able to be utilized to put a soccer field, a baseball field, tennis courts, basketball courts, walking thing. This lot is not
Excuse
big
me.
enough to get all that in there. That's why we have.
That's it. That's it.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Mrs. Rogers.
What is our deadline? Do we have,
November 2019.
okay, that's one question. Another question is, can our DPW put up netting? Is that something that they can do?
It should be included in the fence, in my opinion.
I agree too, especially since we got a letter.
The fencing should go higher in that
And metal
area.
poles set in the ground, you're not,
Since we did ask if it could be changed, but we asked for different reasons, now we have a really we have a real reason to ask for this change. Is there any way that we can contact the board that gave us this money, awarded us this money, and see if we can make a change to the field because of these conditions?
I don't see why it wouldn't hurt. I mean, our planner the last time did, Juliana did, and that's when they gave us the extension.
Right, so can we do this and present them with this information, plus the information that it's not big enough to do the things we
I
wanted
hate to
to?
hold off on sending out the rebid though. Would you want to do both simultaneously?
Yeah, I would, I would.
Yes, just on a discussion part about that netting and the fact of where the field sits. The last 4 years I've been coaching Little League baseball between AA and AAA. AAA right now, my son's 10 years old. That being said, I've watched the majors also. Major League is 11 and 12-year-olds. Being at the Gorham Field over on Route 101 in Situate, one field is set way back where the fence, you can't hit the ball onto Route 101. The second field, the third base line sits right across Route 101. I've only seen one home run myself, I can swear to that. One home run in 4 years by a major leaguer who was probably 11 or 12 years old, one. I've seen over a dozen foul balls hit on the Gorham Field number 2, which sides adjacent to Route 101. Foul balls being popped over the fence, which is curved over in front of home plate, and also onto 101. Well, and we all know 101 is a racetrack. And people pass in that spot right there, 70 miles an hour. I've done it myself. Okay, I won't lie about that. So we all drive in that straightaway. Everybody does 50 miles an hour, the speed limit there. Dozens, I've seen over a dozen balls hit there. If you were to change, you put the home plate closer to the road, your foul balls will be the ones to hit that road. You're not going to see too many home runs. But the solicitor's right. If someone else was to use that field, an adult softball team or anyone who's not supposed to, yes, any adult is going to hit a fly ball and it's going to go over Route 94. That's true. But Little League field is 46 feet 6 inches from home plate to the pitcher's mound. Major League is 60 feet. So again, if you put an adult on that field, yes, they're going to hit onto 94, but that field is supposed to be for Little Leaguers. And in my opinion, putting the home plate where it is, you're not going to get many balls at all going across onto 94. I don't know how you could fix it. If you try to move the home plate around, you're going to put more balls onto Route 94. I'm not an expert. I can't tell you this. I'm just going from what I've seen the last 4 years, and I just want to put that out there.
I appreciate that. My concern is that we do have now the trust knowing this and giving us a letter saying you need to do this or this. So that's something I think we need to address. I think the simplest thing is to put up the netting and go out for a rebid and also contact DEM and see whether or not we can change things up. But I don't want to hold it up anymore because we do have until November 2019 to get this completed. And I'd like to see both things moving forward. The motion was to go out to rebid. We could take a second motion if you'd like. But we haven't voted on it, or you want to amend, it's up to you.
Well, I would like to amend it to include asking the planner to contact the board if gave us the grant and see if we can make any changes to it because of this information.
Second.
We did try, but we didn't have this information, so what Cheryl's saying is that with this information now,
As a hardship?
well, it could be, yeah, right, whatever it is. Well, we could just say, you know, our insurance company has now said this.
And we saw them.
We're still on, we're still on discussion, yes.
Yeah, they did, the trust did say that if it was they would obviously, well, they would possibly adjust premiums
Right,
if it became a habit
right.
of things getting hit.
Yeah, but we take the chance and it only takes one time to hit somebody and hurt somebody or hurt somebody.
Right.
One incident, done.
I don't want you going around and getting killed.
Well, it's like the saying, we don't want to,
Right,
we don't wanna touch this place. I mean, they sort of ran down the middle of the road with it, to say they see the potential for a possible problem. And if it becomes a problem, then going to
Right, and it's gonna raise the rates, and I can see them saying if it happens more than once, they're gonna shut, they're either gonna shut the field down, they're not gonna insure it.
Yeah.
Because all they care about, they don't care about anyone or anything, they care about their pocket. Insurance companies do only care about risk, not you, I, or anyone in this audience.
You don't think they would just,
No, they would close it, because if someone got really hurt,
say no?
say someone get hit in the motorcycle, they did get a tree and got killed, I mean, that's a,
That's an extreme, but
yeah. I mean, no, listen,
But-
that's what I do, those things happen all the time. I mean, you think things don't happen, and they happen all the time.
It
Like
does.
crazy stuff. So,
Mr. Savazio.
Yeah, let me reiterate your lawyer. They have cleared their liability,
Right, yes.
informing
that's right,
you,
that's right.
informing you of this problem.
That is correct.
Okay,
That's
so, that's it. That's
We
that
understand
problem,
that. We
okay?
understand that.
So now you're gonna fix that, or you're gonna ask for an adjustment of what you're gonna put on that fee.
That's the
it.
motion. You understand the motion?
That's it.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Law.
Just a couple of points on this. Are you gonna leave this net up all the time? Because I think you're gonna get a lot of complaints from people, especially neighbors across the street, and people driving by seeing this 25-foot net all the time.
And replacement cost.
Right, and if you don't leave it up all the time, how do you know when someone uses it on a weekend, some high school kids, whatever, they're gonna put
That is
that up?
correct. I think we're gonna have to leave it.
But I don't, I'm just throwing this out,
Yeah.
there as a thing.
That's good.
And then the other thing,
That's a
if you
good
really
point.
want to make this part of the rebid, but just bid the netting out on its own, and we just get somebody that can do it. If you put it on a rebid, the contractor's gonna add a percentage. You know, if he says, somebody says it's $50,000 to do it, he's gonna add, right, he's gonna have money on top of it to cover, you know, part of his thing. Do we, is it better?
Well, our
that we
motion
go
right
out-
now is.
Right, but I'm just throwing it out there, maybe
Mhm.
put it out as its own bid. And the only other thing is the trust did not know about this project. They said they wish they did know.
Yes,
Back
they
in the
mentioned that.
planning part of it, they had no idea that this was going on.
Thank you. Mr. Terrell.
Yes, just one thing, I'm not second questioning anything that you said, but November 9th of 2019, that's set in stone that we have until then?
That's-
I just thought it was November of 18.
That is correct.
No, we got an extension.
Okay, good.
We got an extension because we were concerned about the
Yes.
settling
19.
of
That
the,
sounds a lot
and
better.
they agreed with us, so they gave it. Mrs. Ryder.
If you, I mean, is there anything to prevent the trust, and you might want to investigate this first, just by turning the ball field before you go through all that, ask them if just doing that, now are they gonna come back and say, no, you're gonna put a fence up because of foul balls?
They didn't mention foul balls, they probably don't.
Well, I mean, balls, they're mentioning
Right.
balls going, they also
Yeah.
didn't mention home runs.
Well, they're only going by the plans that are there now, so they have to be contacted if we change the
Right,
plans.
if we change the plan.
Right, but you may end up in the same,
Right, exactly, right.
Right.
and now you've gone, probably ticked off DEM for asking another change, and you've wasted time.
Thank you. Good points. Mr.
Just
Terrell.
one more thing, and if that was the plan, to change the field and turn it around, in my opinion, if you're always putting sunlight in a child's eyes, and one of these kids gets hit by a fly ball in the face and shatters his orbital socket, I mean, we can sit here and argue this all day long, and we have
There's
to,
always going to
it
be
has to
something.
stay the way it has, well, I'm not saying it has to stay, there's always gonna be this back and forth. I mean, it is what it is. It's gonna sit the way it stands, and if you have to modify it by putting a tall fence in, I mean, anyone, I'm not sure if that's DPW director right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you take a ride down the Payne Field, which is in Coventry, behind that senior center, you'll see that they have a 25-foot chain link separating the two fields. I mean, I don't know if you're netting or chain link is, it's just, I was just there the other day. I know netting, obviously netting is something that's gonna fall apart after 4, 5, 6, 7 years. The chain link fence, it looks to me like it's been there since the 90s, 25 years probably. I'm just,
Yep.
it's just something to think
Actually, that's
about.
something that Mr. Stone had mentioned before, is putting a,
Just bite the bullet.
And we can discuss this with the recreation committee, At least who's left on it, Mr. Savazio? Who's smiling today?
Hey, I
And
can,
then we can
no
come
one
back,
was there,
we can come
Dave.
back to you, and hopefully we can get maybe we can get an expert opinion from someone. I'll leave it at that for the recreation committee.
Okay,
In light of what Crystal Lewis said, I think we need to
special meeting.
rethink how we do it. Because he's right, it's gonna rot and it's gonna be
If you do chain
replaced.
link,
If you do a chain link,
Yeah, that's,
it might be,
that
that
would be different.
Chris was talking about, was putting up,
400 feet long.
like where, yeah.
It's gonna be, cost a heck of a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
Isn't this like a home?
So,
Yes, John, the other quick question, to let you guys aware of, the parking lot is along the field. So your foul balls are going to, like he was discussing, a lot of foul balls are going to be going into pots.
It'll be on the
Trust wasn't as concerned about that. I mean, they had mentioned something about people have to assume risk when they go to a.
it's like a golf course, isn't it?
Right.
Right, so, you know, but, because the cars aren't moving, they're not as concerned
Right.
about that, but just so you guys know.
Okay, so we have a motion and an amended motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? The amended motion was to contact DEM with the concerns that we have now before us and see if we can flip things around. When we say flip things around, Ms. Hawes, are you thinking of putting the soccer field where the ball field is and then?
I am the last person in the world to know how that should be set up. I would defer to people more experienced than me. I would hope through the planner that maybe through the planning committee, I don't know. Oh, the architect.
The lot is a triangle, so it's a rectangle.
There's only so much you can do.
Right, so if you're flipping problems too. The problem's on the other end now.
What's the, I don't even know this, how far is the outfield designated line from the road?
I think it's 30 feet.
30 feet?
No, hold it to it.
So you're using the whole footprint of the lot
Right.
for the
Right,
ball
the
field.
trees.
The lot on the left side is the same size
So Ms.
as on
Hawes,
the right.
yeah, so Ms. Hawes, what are you hoping to be the outcome?
Sorry?
Do you understand what I said?
Yes, I do.
As far as,
I do,
Why
I
don't you
get it.
Denise, why don't you just have the motion say that, the motion that the town planner will check with maybe the recreation committee, or whoever she has to, then to get something together to go to DEM to see if they're willing to reconsider the November 19 deadline.
Okay. So that's the motion has been seconded. No further discussion.
Just one thing.
I don't know if
So, no,
that's,
just-
I don't know if it has to reconsider the November 19th deadline, that's next year, but
All right.
about the layout of the field, because that's what we're concerned about, not the deadline so much.
Well-
If we can get a new bid in and know what we're
Do
doing.
both, have them ask about the deadline, it doesn't hurt
Right,
to ask, they can say
right.
no.
Well,
But
I'm
if
afraid they will.
Yeah, they probably will, but.
Okay, probably was
well,
considered.
they had allowed for the deadline to be moved.
Right.
Because of the circumstances.
Right.
What changes, I don't believe we asked.
We did ask about that, and
But we
what
didn't have this
Juliana
stuff.
went with an extension first. That was the,
You could ask in a
thank you,
public,
Mr. Terrell.
I gotta go to baseball practice.
Thank you.
They're all gonna
Thank you.
show up, thank you.
Thank you.
you could ask in your letter to DM or whoever it is, dropping, if you decide to drop a space, that you're willing to give up X amount of dollars, obviously. You're not building a baseball field, you're not building a basketball court. They may ask for some dollars back, you'd benefit from, that's legal wording, and, I don't know.
Well, as it is now, these bids only include ball field, fencing, drainage, and landscaping. They don't include basketball courts, tennis courts,
No, that's the
soccer
second
field.
phase. That's phase two.
Okay, sorry.
That was phase two. So this is just phase one.
Okay, Gordon.
Okay. Okay, so we have an amended motion,
So it's phase one for
right, for the ball field. That's November 19th that this is bid on,
the project bids right now.
right.
Eat
I'm
up the
correct,
whole,
it's just phase
this
one?
eats up the whole grant.
Yeah, well, the grant is for phase one.
It's only for phase
It's
one?
not for,
It's not for phase two. We'd have to go out again for phase two. So we have it amended, it's been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-1, 4-0, 1 refused. Okay. Oh, okay, I thought you were looking to see. All right. So now we go back to the main motion, which was to send it out for rebid to include fencing. That has been seconded. Do we have any further discussion on that?
yes. Mr. Laws, pointing out to something for, it's gonna be what the contractors are gonna do. They do not do the fencing. They're gonna hire someone to do the fencing. So it would probably be easier to get a, well, maybe it wouldn't be easy.
So do it separate, then you,
But to do it separate, let Mr. Law play GC on screening. As far as it being done, obviously you're not gonna require one of these contractors to police whether the fencing gets done or not. Can we do that ourselves? We're gonna put it out for bid ourselves anyways. Could we play general contractor for something?
Yeah, I think it'd be cheaper,
Well, that's, I mean, that's,
instead of rebidding the whole thing again, you know.
whatever that number is, it's gonna add to this. Whether they do, it's gonna add to it, whether we do, it's gonna add to it. It's a small item.
Small, expensive item.
Well, it's gonna be expensive, regardless, but we probably save substantial amount of money hiring a company that specifically does that versus trying to put it in somebody else's bid.
That's what they're gonna do, and then they're gonna, like I said, add
Exactly.
Right.
So
10, 15, 20% to it.
his point, well taken, and he's
Yeah,
right.
I think we should get a price of 2 types of fencing, right, chain link and a netting, so that way you guys can decide which way you want to go.
This is one.
That was my question, whether or not you're going to specify which kind of fencing. Obviously, that's going to be a tremendous difference.
So we have a motion to send out to rebid, it's been seconded. That's what the motion was.
Do we want to amend that to
So-
a particular type of fence? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
okay.
No, so
No.
she felt we could vote on,
To bid to include netting, so
Right.
that makes it seem like we're going out for the whole thing. We should amend that
fencing,
motion.
not netting.
Okay, but that came up after the fact.
Right, yeah.
so
It's
the
gotta be
motion
remade.
was to go out for rebid for netting.
Correct.
Okay, doesn't that sounds
And
like it's by itself.
No,
Maybe.
No, they were-
no, it was
No.
not.
It's going out to.
It sounded like we were going out to rebid for
I mean,
everything, to
kill that
include
motion.
netting.
Well, I didn't hear that.
Netting.
Yeah.
Just kill that motion and make it a motion.
Right.
Right.
So, who made the motion, do they want to withdraw that?
I'll withdraw my motion.
You better withdraw yours too.
Because
You
we don't.
You second.
She
Can we
seconded.
The
amend,
second
She
part,
amended
No.
his
can we
motion.
amend the main
Yeah.
motion
Yeah,
and
amend the
withdraw
main
the,
motion.
but can we withdraw the main motion? Or should we just vote on what the main motion was?
Just vote it down, if you want to vote it down, then just do another motion.
Okay, so the motion was to go out for rebid to include netting. It has been seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Aye.
Now you do a new motion.
Now we can do a new motion.
For both netting, you have two bits, netting and chain link.
So I would look for two,
would we go for both? We
Well, no, but you want to, you want to see, you want to get two
One
options.
against the other.
we want to know what,
Get the pricing, so you.
Right.
I got
so
it.
can we make a motion first and then we can have discussion?
I make a motion to do that, send,
What?
but
Make your motion, make your motion.
to send, FOP with two bids, RFP, netting and chain link,
Do we have a
two
second?
different bids.
So it's been seconded, discussion.
I'm wondering why we're gonna ask for netting when we just
So we can
discussed the.
compare the two.
But we know that down the road, we're gonna have to replace it and it's costly, and is that what we wanna do? That's the question.
We don't know how much it is.
Okay.
I don't know how much it is. Until I find out how much it is, I can't.
Okay.
Okay? You-
Well, I
anybody want
want to challenge
discussion?
Mr. Law's memory again. The fence around the field,
Fine, me too.
that's not stockade.
They-
I know the stockade,
Not around
I'm forgetting, I
the
remember
field.
looking at the details on it,
Not on the field, but part of the fence around the perimeter,
is stockade.
they have a stockade, which I think is a pretty bad idea.
Okay, so around the field, that is chain link fence?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's the way the RFP was written.
What?
Was the RFP was written to have a stockade fence or?
Plans call for a stockade
The
fence.
plans
I thought that was something that could easily be changed down the road. The problem with stockade is 4 or 5 years in a rot. You know,
But that's not part of
it's
this.
not the whole
Yes.
exterior, but they do have a section of stockade fence.
So, and that's part of this bid,
Yeah, it is in that bid, you know, according to the plans.
so we would need to go out.
I don't think that, I think it's, anything you do is going to be cheaper than stockade. It's like I said, it's just a section, I don't see it as a big problem.
All right, so we have a motion, and it's been seconded to request 2 RFPs, one for chain link and one for netting. Any further discussion? Mrs. Ryder?
I think the stockade was put in there so to visually shield the ball field from the neighbors. I don't think they're gonna be very happy with chain link.
Well, we're talking about the, out of 94. I know we were talking, that was a sidebar, if you will.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So any further discussion?
Question. If we're looking for either netting or chain link to be used one or the other, and obviously it's a height thing, at the road, this is just for the road?
Right.
Yeah, it's around the,
Just
from
from
right field to left field.
the north to south line on 94?
Right. It's not, what Mrs. Ryder was explaining was that the stockade was for aesthetics, but we're talking about what's along 94, so.
If we end up, if you added netting to that 4-foot chain link fence that's there, that's one thing. If you're gonna make the whole thing chain link, that'll conflict with,
Right.
there'll have to be a change made with, because they're expecting for the chain link fence.
Right, that's why I don't know whether it would need to go out to rebid because of that portion of it.
Or we can
I
adjust it
think
now.
this, the 25-foot high fence would be separate,
Okay.
wouldn't be part of the outfield, but.
It wouldn't be the outfield fence, you're just thinking of another fence protector?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So, any further discussion on the 2 RFPs, one for chain link, one for netting? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Back to what we're going to do about the bids that we received.
My recommendation is you might want to wait, I don't know, it's up to you guys, but you don't know what these bids are going to come in with this chain link. I mean, that could be $50,000, I mean, I don't know what we want to do with that stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking
Well,
at
you
some of
think
these bids
maybe-
and what
I
we're
don't
going to do.
So you want to wait till maybe your August 9th meeting to do these bids, and then see if you can maybe, you can get some, maybe some bids in the meantime on the fencing, because that could change your whole
Yeah, well, that's
dynamics
what-
here.
yeah.
What you don't want to do is give, I mean, in my opinion, give a bid out, and then it's not going to doable. You might want to wait to do the bids until the meeting of the 9th. anyway.
Are these bids only good for so long?
No, I
No.
don't think so.
You
There's
don't
no
think so?
timeframe on it.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the potential it would be no good because things would go up, but I think you
No,
can
I don't mean
wait a
next
month
year,
or
I
so.
don't-
But I mean, yeah, you
Okay.
can wait a month or so with these, if you have to.
Do we have to notify them that we're doing this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So, the way it's worded on our agenda, do we need to
Yeah,
make a motion to say we're gonna hold off?
Till August 9th,
Will you be
Eighth.
able to get,
or you want to go to the end of
Will
the
you be
month?
able
It's
to
gonna be
get
really tight.
Oh,
that
the end of
much?
the month.
Well, we don't have a meeting.
So we
It
have
goes
to be
September.
September?
I mean, if something happens, you can always have a special meeting.
Okay.
Make a motion, we table it till September,
Our first September meeting.
okay, first September meeting.
Second.
Discussion.
We don't have one in August.
We don't have enough time, which is not enough time for the bid to get out.
We said that this month.
Jack,
Three.
Mr. Sheldon.
Did the insurance company, in their letter, specify what they want
Yes.
as far as height and length goes? It
Yes,
is.
it is.
25 feet.
Not material or what it's made out of, but just the.
Yeah. They said netting attached to poles can extend up to 25 feet, which should be adequate.
Now, is that gonna be above the ball field, or, because you're gonna be off the ball field where this net is gonna go? And it probably drops off a couple of 3 feet.
No.
So, I'm thinking they want to probably look at 25 feet to start at the level of the ball field.
Yeah.
Right.
We're off by 3 feet, we're gonna need a 28 foot high fence.
But
You're
it
not
is,
going out that trip, Jeff. If you have the.
It should be flat when they get
Right.
done doing them.
okay, so we've had motion made to table the awarding of the bid till the first meeting in September. Is it seconded? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
You've been so quiet.